Today we're breaking down Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. Have you ever wondered why we can put a man on the moon, but can't prevent the diseases that kill almost everyone? Like we wait until you have diabetes to treat it instead of preventing it 20 years earlier. And why your doctor only cares about keeping you alive, but not about whether you can actually enjoy those extra years. Dr. Peter Attia discovered after years of practicing traditional medicine that we're approaching longevity completely wrong, focusing on lifespan while ignoring healthspan, treating diseases after they appear, instead of preventing them decades in advance. In this video, you will learn 6 science-backed strategies to not just live longer, but live better, including why exercise is literally the most powerful longevity drug we have, and how the choices you make at 40 determine whether you're hiking at 90 or bedridden at 70. Watch till the end to understand how to avoid the 4 diseases that kill 80% of people and build what Attia calls your centenarian decathlon. Not through biohacking trends, but through proven interventions that compound over decades. Lesson number 1, Medicine 3.0. This first concept reframes everything about how you should approach your health, because the current medical system is designed for acute problems, not chronic prevention. Medicine 1.0 was pre-scientific, bloodletting, superstition, hope. Medicine 2.0 is what we have now: antibiotics, surgery, treating diseases after they appear. It's brilliant for infections and trauma, terrible for chronic disease prevention. Attia proposes Medicine 3.0, personalized, preventive, focused on health span, not just lifespan. Instead of waiting for disease to treat it, we identify and address risk factors decades before symptoms appear. Think about heart disease. Medicine 2.0 waits until you have a heart attack, then prescribes statins and surgery. Medicine 3.0 looks at your ApoB levels in your 30s, sees risk developing, and intervenes 40 years before the heart attack would happen. The current system is like waiting for your house to catch fire before installing smoke detectors. We have the technology to see the sparks, insulin resistance, arterial plaque, cancer markers, but we wait for the inferno. Medicine 2.0 asks, what's the least we can do to keep you from dying? Medicine 3.0 asks, what's the most we can do to keep you thriving? One is defensive, one is offensive, one is reactive, one is proactive. But here's what changes everything. The 4 diseases that kill 80% of people, heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative disease, and metabolic dysfunction, take decades to develop. By the time symptoms appear, you've lost the game. The winning move is to play 20 to 30 years ahead. This requires a different relationship with your doctor. Not someone you see when sick, but a strategic partner in optimizing your future health. Not treating disease, but engineering longevity. Not normal lab ranges, but optimal ranges for your genetics and goals. You need to become the CEO of your own health. Doctors are consultants, but you make the strategic decisions. This means understanding your biomarkers, tracking trends, and intervening based on trajectory, not just current state. Medicine 3.0 also recognizes that how you die matters as much as when. Extending life without extending capability is failure. The goal is rectangularizing the curve, staying highly functional until near the end, not slowly declining for decades. Which brings us to what's actually killing everyone. Lesson number 2, the 4 horsemen. These 4 categories of disease kill 80% of people, and they're all preventable if you start early enough, but almost nobody does. The 4 horsemen: cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and type 2 diabetes/metabolic dysfunction. If you make it past 40 without dying from accident or suicide, one of these 4 will likely kill you. Cardiovascular disease is the biggest killer, but it's also the most preventable. Atherosclerosis plaque buildup in arteries starts in your teens. By the time you have symptoms in your 60s, you've had the disease for 40 years. We can detect and reverse it early, but we don't. Cancer is trickier. We're all producing cancer cells daily, but our immune system destroys them. Cancer wins when it outsmarts immunity. Early detection is everything. Stage 1 cancer has a 90% cure rate. Stage 4 has 10%. Yet we barely screen until symptoms appear. Neurodegenerative disease might be the cruelest. Alzheimer's begins 20 years before diagnosis. By the time you forget names, your brain has been dying for decades. We have no cure, but we know exercise, sleep, and metabolic health dramatically reduce risk. Type 2 diabetes isn't just about blood sugar. It's systemic metabolic dysfunction. It accelerates all other horsemen. Having diabetes doubles heart disease risk, increases cancer risk 2 to 4 times, and triples Alzheimer's risk. It's the gateway disease. But here's the critical insight. These aren't independent diseases. They share common roots. Insulin resistance drives all 4. Chronic inflammation accelerates all 4. Mitochondrial dysfunction underlies all 4. Fix the roots, prevent all 4. The timeline matters enormously. Preventing heart disease at 40 is easy. Preventing it at 60 is hard. Preventing diabetes at 30 is simple. Reversing it at 50 is complex. The earlier you intervene, the more leverage you have. Attia's approach. Assume you'll get all 4 unless you actively prevent them. Test aggressively. Not just standard panels, but advanced markers like ApoB, LPA, continuous glucose monitoring, DEXA scans, calcium scores. Know your risks while you can still change them. Most doctors say your numbers are normal for your age. But normal is average, and average means dying of these diseases. You don't want normal, you want optimal. Normal cholesterol at 50 still leads to heart attacks at 70. The strategy is to maintain the physiology of someone 20 to 30 years younger. If you're 60 with the biomarkers of a healthy 40-year-old, your risk plummets. This isn't about vanity. It's about engineering decades of additional health span. Which brings us to the most powerful drug that no one prescribes. Lesson number 3. The ultimate longevity drug. If exercise were a pill, it would be the most powerful longevity drug ever discovered, yet most people dramatically underuse it. Attia presents shocking data. Going from sedentary to just the 50th percentile of fitness reduces all-cause mortality by 50%. Going to the 90th percentile reduces it by 70%. No drug comes close to these numbers, but here's what everyone gets wrong about exercise for longevity. It's not about burning calories or looking good. It's about building 4 specific physiological capacities that determine how long and how well you live. First, Zone 2 cardio. This is conversational pace aerobic work that trains your mitochondria, your cellular engines. Mitochondrial dysfunction underlies aging and all 4 horsemen. Zone 2 literally reverses this. Attia prescribes 3 to 4 hours weekly, not 30 minutes. Second, VO2 max. This is your maximum oxygen consumption, the best predictor of longevity we have. Having a VO2 max in the bottom 25% for your age gives you a 4 times higher risk of death than being in the top 25%. It's more predictive than smoking. Third, strength. Muscle mass and strength independently predict longevity. Sarcopenia, muscle loss, doesn't just make you frail. It destroys metabolic health, increases fall risk, and correlates with cognitive decline. You need to be actively building muscle, not just maintaining. Fourth, stability. This is your foundation: core strength, balance, flexibility, movement quality. Poor stability leads to falls, which lead to hip fractures, which lead to death. 1 year after hip fracture, mortality is 20 to 30%. But here's Attia's revolutionary framework. Train for the centenarian decathlon. 10 physical tasks you want to be able to do in your final decade. Carry groceries upstairs. Get up from the floor. Hike with grandkids. Pick your 10, then work backwards. If you want to carry 30 pounds upstairs at 90, you need to be able to carry 60 pounds at 60, accounting for age-related decline. This creates specific motivating targets instead of vague, be healthy goals. The marginal decade, your last 10 years, is determined by your physical capacity. Most people spend it in nursing homes because they didn't build reserve capacity. Every workout is a deposit in your future independence account. Timing matters. Building muscle at 30 is easy, at 70 is nearly impossible. Building VO2 max at 40 is straightforward, at 80 is dangerous. The earlier you build reserve capacity, the longer it lasts. Which brings us to the most controversial pillar, lesson number 4, the individual prescription. Nutrition for longevity isn't about the perfect diet. It's about finding what works for your metabolism. And it's probably not what you think. Attia spent years experimenting on himself. Ketogenic, fasting, plant-based, everything. His conclusion? There's no universal best diet, but there are universal principles everyone ignores. First principle. Caloric balance still matters. Every successful longevity diet creates some form of caloric restriction. Whether through fasting, food rules, or meal timing, they all reduce total intake. The mechanism matters less than the outcome. Second, protein is non-negotiable. Most longevity advice says reduce protein, but Attia disagrees strongly. You need 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight to maintain muscle. For a 180-pound person, that's 150 plus grams daily. Most people get half that. Third, metabolic health trumps everything. Your ability to handle glucose determines disease risk more than any specific food. Continuous glucose monitoring reveals how your body responds, not how studies say it should respond. Attia wears a continuous glucose monitor and discovered shocking personal patterns. Foods he thought were healthy spiked his glucose. Foods he thought were problematic didn't. Individual variation is massive. Your friend's perfect diet might be metabolically terrible for you. The order you eat matters more than what you eat. Vegetables first, then protein fat, then carbs, produces 50% lower glucose spikes than eating carbs first. Same food, different order, dramatically different metabolic impact. But here's the framework that changes everything. Instead of following diets, follow metrics. Track your ApoB, triglycerides, insulin, glucose variability. Eat in whatever pattern keeps these optimal. Some thrive on 3 meals, others on 1. Some need carbs, others don't. Let data guide you, not dogma. The 3 levers you can pull. What you eat, food quality, when you eat, timing, fasting, and how much you eat, quantity. Most people obsess about what while ignoring when and how much, which matter more for longevity. Time-restricted feeding shows remarkable benefits, not from magic, but from naturally reducing calories and improving insulin sensitivity. Eating in an 8-hour window isn't special, but it prevents late-night snacking and gives your gut a break. Attia's personal protocol: high protein, 1 gram per pound, moderate carb, timed around exercise, time restricted to 8 to 10 hours with continuous glucose monitoring to optimize. But he emphasizes, this is his protocol based on his data, not universal prescription. Which brings us to the foundation nobody wants to talk about. Lesson number 5, the force multiplier. Sleep is when your body actually implements all the healthy changes you're trying to make. Without it, nothing else matters. Attia calls sleep the foundation because poor sleep sabotages everything. Exercise doesn't build muscle. Sleep after exercise does. Diet doesn't repair cells. Sleep after eating does. Your brain doesn't consolidate memories. Sleep does that too. One night of poor sleep, less than 6 hours, increases insulin resistance, equivalent to 6 months of eating poorly. Your glucose response is 40% worse. Your hunger hormones go haywire. You literally become temporarily pre-diabetic from one bad night. Sleep deprivation accelerates every aspect of aging. Telomeres shorten faster. Inflammation markers skyrocket. Cancer risk increases. The WHO classifies shift work as a probable carcinogen purely from sleep disruption. Even vaccines work 50% less effectively when sleep deprived. But it's not just duration, it's quality. You need all stages. Deep sleep clears metabolic waste and releases growth hormone. REM sleep consolidates memory and regulates emotions. Missing either creates specific dysfunctions. Attia tracks his sleep obsessively with Whoop and 8 Sleep. Most people who think they sleep well don't. They confuse time in bed with actual sleep. 8 hours in bed might mean 6 hours sleeping if you're waking frequently. Here's his sleep protocol that transformed his health. Temperature is crucial. Your body needs to drop 2 to 3 degrees to initiate sleep. Cooling mattress pads can transform sleep quality. Attia uses 8 Sleep to program temperature changes throughout the night. Light management isn't optional. Blue light after sunset delays melatonin by 3 hours. Attia wears blue blockers from sunset onward. Bedroom must be pitch black. If you can see your hand, it's too bright. Consistency beats everything. Same bedtime and wake time every day, weekends included. Your circadian rhythm doesn't understand weekends. Social jet lag, different weekend schedule, is metabolically equivalent to flying cross-country weekly. No alcohol within 3 hours of bed. Even one drink reduces REM sleep by 20%. But it helps me fall asleep? Yes, but it destroys sleep quality. You're sedated, not sleeping. The sleep debt compounds over time. Exercise improves sleep, but timing matters. Intense exercise within 3 hours of bed increases core temperature and cortisol when they should be dropping. Morning exercise improves nighttime sleep most. Which brings us to the aspect everyone ignores. Lesson number 6, the hidden variable. This final pillar determines whether all the physical optimization even matters, because psychological suffering can destroy a physically healthy body. Attia reveals his own story. Despite being incredibly fit, successful, professionally accomplished, he was miserable. Anger, workaholism, emotional disconnection. He was optimizing everything except what mattered most. Mental health. Emotional health isn't separate from physical health. They're inseparable. Chronic stress and trauma create inflammation, suppress immunity, accelerate aging. Childhood trauma correlates with every major disease. Your biography becomes your biology. The data is staggering. People with strong social connections live 50% longer. Loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes daily. Depression doubles heart disease risk. Anxiety disorders correlate with 30% shorter telomeres. But here's what Attia learned. You can't outrun emotional problems with physical optimization. He was doing everything right physically, but dying inside emotionally. The stress was undoing all his healthy behaviors at the cellular level. Therapy isn't weakness, it's maintenance. You service your car regularly? Why not your mind? Attia does intensive therapy, not because he's broken, but because emotional health requires active cultivation, like physical health. The practices that matter. Mindfulness meditation changes brain structure in 8 weeks. Gratitude practices reduce inflammatory markers. Social connection is more powerful than any supplement. Play and laughter boost immune function. Relationships are longevity drugs. The Harvard study of adult development, 80 years of data, shows relationship quality, predicts happiness and health more than any other factor. Toxic relationships literally poison you. Healthy ones are medicine. Meaning and purpose add years. Having a reason to wake up, what the Japanese call ikigai, correlates with 7 years longer life. It's not about happiness, but about significance. Even struggle with purpose beats comfort without it. Emotional health in your marginal decade determines everything. You can be physically capable, but emotionally broken makes those years torture. Or physically limited, but emotionally rich makes them meaningful. Let me make this actionable immediately. Longevity isn't about exotic interventions. It's about consistently doing the basics at a higher level than most people think necessary. Exercise more than you think, 4+ hours weekly. Eat more protein than recommended. Sleep more seriously than seems reasonable. Address emotional health before crisis. Start with these 3 actions. First, schedule a comprehensive biomarker panel, not just standard blood work, but ApoB, insulin, DEXA scan. Know your baseline. Second, pick your centenarian decathlon, 10 physical things you want to do at 90, then start training. Third, track one metric obsessively for 30 days, glucose, sleep, or HRV, and optimize it. Because here's what Attia taught me. The best time to prevent disease was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Your marginal decade is being determined by your choices right now. Remember, you're not just trying to live longer, you're trying to die young as late as possible. Start building that future today. For more book summaries that give you actionable takeaways without the fluff, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.